Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we've got the Cubs train derailed in Cincinnati, and the Blackhawks and Bulls add some new blood to the team. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season over now, but that doesn't mean you can't go to icehogs.com, sign up for season tickets, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent ya. All right, Alex. Do we want to start with the bad news first and then go on to other stuff?
Yeah, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just rip it off.
I was writing another narrative because a fairly good series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and with going to Cincinnati for 4 games, you felt like this was going to be a good thing for the Cubs and retake the lead for the division. And man, did we write off the Cincinnati Reds, and that was the wrong thing to do.
I realize that the Cincinnati Reds have been playing good baseball as of late, so you got to give them a little credit there. But, wow. I mean, that was more than a train derailment in terms of how that series went. That was like a derailment and then an explosion. Now, I don't want to put that in terms of the season because they're only 2 games back. They only lost 1 game in the standings this whole weekend, thank goodness. So it's not like it's derailing to the season, but just in terms of what they did over this 4-game series was just so shockingly terrible. And you had a little bit of everything. You had your ass getting kicked in 1 game where you weren't in the game at all. You just got your brains beat in. You had games where you had 1 just terrible inning where everything just went apart. I mean, that was pretty much every game. But, you were leading in some of those games. And then you had games where you had a significant lead. The final game, I thought, okay, they're up 6-1 in the 7th. I couldn't watch today, but I saw they were up 6-1. And I'm like, okay, I mean, losing 3 or 4 to the Reds sucks, but at least you could salvage this last one and go to LA on a positive note. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting these notifications that the Reds not only made it a game, but they took the lead. And I looked at what happened on the Gamecast, and this was all happening, and not a single out was recorded.
Yeah, and usually if you have an inning where a pitcher just loses it, especially against a team that is at the bottom of the standings, it's kind of an anomaly. But I mean, with this team, in this series, Pedro Strop looked terrible. Mike Montgomery looked terrible. Kyle Hendricks looked terrible. Randy Rosario looked terrible. Jose Quintana looked terrible.
Quintana.
Luke Farrell looked terrible. Brian Dunsing looked terrible. Jimenez, you
that's
expect
an
that.
understatement for him. Ooh. Yeah, yeah. No Cubs pitcher could throw the ball by the Reds' bats. Not one. Every single ball that the Reds swung at was crushed. Even the outs were some very hard-hit outs. But, I mean, just everything. They were dumping things into the outfield. They were slugging the ball out of the park. Their freaking pitcher hit a grand slam, for crying out loud. It's just, oh my God. It was excruciating.
And it didn't help that the offense didn't really bring a lot to the table either.
Except for the last game, but, it didn't matter in the end. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The first 3 games, they didn't do much of anything. And Great American Ballpark has been the site of just Cubs domination until now. And you saw what the Cubs have done the past 3 years in that stadium. What the Reds did to the Cubs is what the Cubs have been doing to the Reds the past few years.
Yeah, it really has. Turnabout is fair play. And, we're used to seeing Bryant and Rizzo really come out of any sort of funk that they're in the stadium. And now you've got Bryant out for multiple games with a sore shoulder, and Rizzo still batting in the 230s.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the home run today, but other than that, he had not had a good series at all. I think he was hitless in this series until that home run. I mean, once again, the brightest spot on this team is Jason Hayward.
Yeah.
Batting wise.
Yeah, Jason Hayward batting, 277?
Yeah. Him and Almora had pretty good series.
It's just so frustrating. And you're right. This is 4 games in a 162 game season. But what it represents is something more. It's a team that is offensively extraordinarily inconsistent, and the timely at-bats are not quality at-bats, and that's something that's indicative of a deeper-rooted problem. Is once the playoffs come around, assuming you make the playoffs even, this having at-bats that are inconsistent, having an inconsistent offense is a recipe to get booted in the playoffs real quick.
Right. You want to find some consistency here, obviously, as soon as possible. I mean, once again, we've seen how good this offense can be, but when you think about it, it really hasn't done all that much outside of a few games the past few weeks. It's kind of been in a funk for, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe a little less than a month now. Because at least there was a period of time where the Cubs were putting up really good offensive numbers night in, night out. And, recently we haven't really seen that. I don't know how to say this, but it seems like there's never a click. It's always a group of guys doing really well and a group of guys struggling like crazy. We've seen in the past when the Cubs have gone on streaks where pretty much everyone is contributing. And we've seen that for small stretches this past season, but really not much. There's always someone really struggling and someone who's really unsustainably hot. What you'd like to see is kind of where it all meets together, where everyone is just contributing at a solid pace. And I still think that's going to happen, but so far we haven't seen it as much.
Yeah, you don't see it. Yeah, every once in a while you'll see a game where everybody's contributing, but mostly it's just 1 or 2 guys, and you need more consistency, and you need more teamwork at bats. There's way too many strikeouts with runners in scoring position in less than 2 outs. And those are the types of at-bats that you need to be selfless and just make contact. And there's way too many just bad at-bats with runners in scoring position. And there's a difference between a good at-bat with an out and a bad at-bat. And you're not seeing the quality approach with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it's not a strikeout, we've seen a lot of instances where bad at bats aren't strikeouts, but they're pop ups on the infield or just weak choppers that don't get a runner over or don't get a runner home. It's stuff like that. So this is one of those series where you want to express as much frustration as you can because that was awful, awful this weekend. No other words to describe it. But I don't want to act like the sky is falling either. My main concern right now is the injuries. I mean, your best player is having shoulder problems. Hopefully you get Yu Darvish back soon. And one of your best relievers has been hurt. Then you lost your closer to a very, very odd injury. Hopefully everyone can kind of come back together. Also, one thing that I think is interesting is that it seems like every year, late June, they go through this.
I'm just looking at this series, and for this 4-game series, the Cubs were 5 for 23 with runners in scoring position and left 24 men stranded in. That's not good. That's not good baseball.
Right. Yeah, no, it's not. And while I give, a lot of frustrating feelings towards the offense, a lot also has to do on the pitching as well. I mean, the pitching in this series was god awful. I can't be too mad at them because they have been good. And you know what? There are times when you're just going to have terrible series. But, I mean, my goodness, they couldn't miss a stinking bat.
I mean, it sucks because it's a division game, but at least it's a division game against a team that they're not going to be in the running come the end of the season.
Right. It would feel a lot worse if this was
absolutely.
against the
Brewers or Cardinals. It would feel worse if it was against the Dodgers if you did this, because that's a team that you expect to see in the playoffs. It's embarrassing when it's to the team in last place in your division, but it's not the end of the world. They need, what they need to do now is, it sucks because they're on a streak where they don't have days off. They go right to Los Angeles, but I believe Lester's on the mound.
Yeah, it's back to he's pitching at some point in the series. I know that they've had to redo the pitching rotation a lot. Actually, I think Dwayne Underwood's going to start tomorrow. And then Lester.
Huh.
I'm going to look this up and make sure. Yeah, Cubs announced 2012 and second-round pick Dwayne Underwood will make his major league debut Monday at Dodger Stadium. He's 3-7 with a 4.27 ERA, AAA Iowa. The righty has a career 3.79 minor league ERA. So this could go one of two ways. He could pitch really good because sometimes when you're a AAA call-up, you end up doing really good things.
And part of that is...
Or he can get his brains beat.
And part of doing well when you're a call-up, it's the first time anybody's seen you. It's new. And you get that when you're a new pitcher facing a new hitter, usually the pitcher has the advantage.
Right.
So nobody's seen him, nobody's gone through, and a lot of times you'll see the young guy's best start in his first appearance, and then once they get used to him or see him or have tape, the things even up a little bit. But so hopefully we get that rather than more bleeding.
Yeah, no kidding. One point that I was actually talking to someone about earlier, I was talking to this with a family member, and he made a good point. One of the reasons that the pitching rotation, though the stats aren't terrible, were a bit frustrated with. And he's kind of right when you think about it. I don't know if you've noticed this. I bet you have. But when they get to the third time through the order, everything falls apart.
I mean, that's fairly common, but it's exaggerated in what you're seeing with the Cubs. But I think I would, I don't have stats to back me up, but I would imagine that's true, is because that's the reason why closer or bullpen guys are bullpen guys, because they don't have as many pitches, and you only face them one time. Starters usually have more pitches to vary things up, to face guys multiple times. But by the time you face a major league batter 3-4 times, they start to figure out what you're going to do, what the strike zone is, and how they're going to attack you. And the advantage may not switch fully to them, but it's much more so than the first time they face them.
Yeah, I mean, there's naturally an advantage like that for pretty much everybody, but it just seems lately that once they hit the third time through, just all hell breaks loose. I mean, it happened in most of the games in the series, except for yesterday. I mean, you saw, again, with Quintana, he wasn't great throughout the game, but you saw how things really unraveled that third time through the order. You saw how it unraveled with Kyle Hendricks. And that unfortunately has prevented a lot of deep starts, because this is when Joe Madden yanks guys. It's been in the sixth inning, and your bullpen has to work really hard.
Yeah, and you're right. It is it's a natural thing to happen third, fourth time around seeing a guy, but it is an exaggerated result that you're seeing with the Cubs, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's the game being called from behind the plate, if it's guys are tired and aren't able to throw like they do in the first, second, third innings. I don't know what the answer is, but I do agree with you that this is what it seems like we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'm not trying to act like the sky is falling here. I'm not. They still have one of the best records in baseball. They're still right there in the division race. There's still a long way to go. But when frustrating things like these happen, you call them as they are in the moment. And no matter what happens this season, this series was just awful. Just plain awful.
And it's
and I want to forget it as soon as I can.
And what's worse is they don't have a day off until a week from tomorrow. So we're recording this on Sunday. So a week from Monday is the next day they have off. So
they have barely any days off this year because of this damn weather, and that's such garbage.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily, July the July games prior to the All-Star game are hopefully a little easier. You got Twins, Tigers, Reds, which should be easier, Giants, and Padres. So
those are the teams that worry me, frankly.
Those are the teams you should be beating. And what sucks is they will be in San Diego playing 2 days before I get there to San Diego. So I don't get to see them play.
Yeah. I think this series kind of reminds me. Do you remember last year when they got swept by the Padres and the Dodgers?
Yep. Padres especially.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers were really, really good, so that was one thing, but I think that was over Memorial Day weekend. Let's just hope that doesn't continue in LA. I mean, right now, I'd gladly take a split there. Because I believe it's a 4-game series.
I got the schedule right here. It is a 4-game series.
So yeah, I mean, if you could split there, that would be fine. Again, they're not far out of the division race. It's amazing they only just lost one game. Usually when you get swept by a last place team, that could really put you back. But, I can't believe I'd ever say this in my life, but thank you, Cardinals.
Swept by the last place team in a 4-game series. Not a 3-game series, a 4-game series.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one way I just say it is this shit does happen. I mean, every year you have terrible series like these. Even the 2016 Cubs, at this time, late June, early July, they went through that horrific stretch. You remember that, right?
Yep.
It didn't do as much because they were already miles ahead of everybody else. Now, I'm not comparing this team to 2016. They're both really good teams, but, let's face it, outside that one little bad stretch, that 2016 team was more or less flawless. This team hasn't been quite as flawless, even though overall they have been, good overall. So you just hope things don't get too much worse. Hope that they get healthy again. They find some consistency. They've proven on paper that they're good with the past few years. So don't panic, but if you want to complain about this series and just vent, I'd say go right at it because it was just awful.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of it. It's so infuriating, and you hope it's not an indictment on the Cubs as a whole, and that this is just a blip. And that's what we're going to hope for. And you're right when you say that we don't want to say the sky is falling, but it is worrisome. It's if this would have been the Dodgers, like if we would have won 3 of 4 against the Reds and then got swept by the Dodgers in 4 games, I don't think anybody would be acting nearly as irrationally because it's the Reds and it's the way they lost to the Reds. But it's a scary thing, and hopefully this is just a reality check to this team and a wake up call rather than a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, you can look back at the last few seasons and see just that really awful low point. And like I said, it's always around this time. Heck, remember 2015 when that god-awful Phillies team came to Wrigley Field and swept the Cubs? And
Beat
then
Arrieta.
in June 2016, yeah, they beat Arrieta. That was when they got no hit. And then, 2016, around this time, they lost a bunch of games, bunch of series, really looked awful there. And then last year, you had a bit of a June swoon, even though the first half really wasn't all that great. It was incredibly mediocre. But, around this time of year, they had their struggles. So that's why right now, especially with the injuries, it seems like it's a blip in the road. Don't want to draw any conclusions. I get some fears with some of the stuff, like I said, the injuries, but, I'm not going to give up on anything yet, even though I'm still pretty unhappy about what happened this weekend. But we'll get up tomorrow, start a new series, and hopefully that'll just all be behind us so we can move forward.
Not really Cubs related at all in any way, but I just want to appreciate something really quickly. As a baseball fan, Mike effing Trout. Have you?
He has higher WARs than like several teams.
He is absolutely just. I mean, I've never seen anything like this, except maybe the year Bonds hit 73. That's the only thing comparable that I've ever seen in my entire life to this.
And again, how much is really being talked about in the sports world in general? You see a lot of tweets from MLB, MLB.com with articles, but you don't see him on the face of ESPN like you would some of those other guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard when you're the second fiddle team. They're the second fiddle team to the Dodgers.
Yep.
It would be like Jose Abreu going off. They're the second, not to knock the White Sox, but it's they're the second fiddle team, and it's not to be disrespectful. It's just in the eyes of the national media that if you are the second team of a two team city, then you better be doing something spectacular before they'll acknowledge you. So that goes for the A's, that goes for the Mets, that goes for the White Sox, that goes for the Angels. And it's unfortunate because Mike Trout is doing something extraordinary and not getting the recognition.
Right. It's too bad because I think he deserves a lot of the recognition. And it really doesn't help that they're overall mediocre. I mean, just imagine if you got to watch Trout play in the World Series, you'd see a lot more hype around him.
I mean, the guy's got like a 1.1 OPS, batting 327, crushing home runs. His WAR is ridiculous. The guy, it's crazy what he's doing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm just going to look up his raw numbers right now because every day, even though he's not Mr. Superstar marketed everywhere, like I said, MLB tweets about him all the time, doing a lot of comparisons to other, players, teams, and your eyes pop open and you just say, wow.
Okay.
So if you look...
Let me just sum the... Sorry, go ahead. You go ahead. I've got some crazy numbers too.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you really quick, what website are you on?
I'm on ESPN.
Okay, I'm on Fangraphs. My crazy numbers here are, it's June 24th. He's already a 6.2 WAR player on June 24th. I mean, that's crazy.
What was the best WAR? What was the best F4 last year for a position player for the season?
That I will look up because I feel like Trout was definitely among the top. I'm just not sure if he was the top, but he might have been. All right, let's see. Fangraphs will tell us all. Major league leaders. And you asked last year, correct?
Yeah, for the entire season.
Okay. Let's see. Batting player. Okay. The highest was Aaron Judge, 8.2.
And Mike Trout is almost there. It's not even an all-star break yet.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And the other stat that I wanted to mention really quick, the guy's got a .464 on-base percentage. Not only that, he is walking slightly more than he is striking out. He is walking 19.8% of the time. He's striking out 19.5% of the time. 19.8 versus 19.5 base on ball to Ks. Just let that sink in.
I got some numbers. These are career numbers I have.
Okay, let's hear them.
Through his first 1,000 games as a Major League Baseball player, if you look at the all-time best numbers through first 1,000 games, the most hits through a first 1,000 games in Major League Baseball history is Pete Rose at 1,231. Mike Trout's already at 1,126. So he's about 100 hits behind Pete Rose.
Wow.
Total bases, all-time leader for the first 1,000 games, Hank Aaron, 2,221. Mike Trout, 2,100. Home runs, most home runs all time for the first 1,000 games. was Barry Bonds with 172. Mike Trout has 234. Most runs scored, or most runs, Ricky Henderson, 795. Mike Trout, 754. Most walks in the first 1,000 games, Barry Bonds, 603. Mike Trout, 638. Now, here's the one that will just bend your mind. The highest WAR among all MLB players in history through the first 1,000 games was Barry Bonds with 50 even. Mike Trout, 61.7.
Wow.
Here's another number. Through Mike Trout was called up in April of 2012. Do you know what the longest streak of games he's gone since he was called up in which he failed to reach base? How many consecutive games?
How many? 3?
2. The record was 3 by Willie Mays.
Wow.
Barry Bonds had a streak of 4. Griffey had a streak of 4. Ted Williams was 3. That's insane.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, wow. You are comparing him already to some of the greatest ball players of all time. And how old is he right now? 26. He's 26.
Yeah, he's just coming in his prime.
He is entering his prime, and look what he's done. That's insane.
If you look at the Angels team record for WAR for a career, it was Jim Fregosi with 45.9 for position players. Mike Trout's already at 61.7. And the total for any player, which is Chuck Finley, whose WAR with an Angels was 52.1. And Mike Trout's just smashed that.
And that's just too bad that he really hasn't been on a contender outside 1 year. It really is too bad.
Where Mike Trout ranks among the all-time Angels at the age of 26. He's 8th in hits, 4th in home runs, 5th in runs, 8th in RBIs, 4th in walks, 3rd in stolen bases. Mike Trout's win probability added the cumulative change in the Angels' win probability before he comes to the plate and afterwards is the 3rd highest through 1,000 game career by any hitter since 1920. He's the only 2 players ahead of him. They don't even say who that is. But Albert Pujols is just behind him.
It's amazing looking at...
The guy's crazy.
I mean, it's amazing looking at the homepage for the Los Angeles Angels on Baseball Reference, where it lists all their seasons, what they've done, and number 1 all-time top in WAR, 60.7 B WAR, Mike Trout. I mean, that's amazing. It really is, because you look at all these other guys that are on the list. I mean, they're all retired. All these other guys are retired. Some of them have been retired for a very long time. I mean, Chuck Finley, Jim Vergosi, Tim Salmon, I mean, all those guys, Nolan Ryan, they've all been gone for a long time. And here's Mike Trout at age 26. He's already statistically the best Angel there ever was. It's amazing. You know what else is...
And to be fair, he's on pace to be the best player on any team ever.
That's true. I mean, that's very, very true. You know,
I mean, when it's all said and done, this is not even an exaggeration. We might be watching the best baseball player who's ever lived.
Yeah, it's when it comes to just being a complete player, it's very, very possible. It's very possible. I mean, he brings everything to such an elite level. And I really hate it when some old crusty people say he doesn't deserve to be MVP because his team wasn't good. The award is most valuable player. The player with the most value. But yeah, because of what his team does around him, that should affect it. It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely not. Is if he's the best player, it doesn't matter if the team around him stinks, because if they imagine how bad they would stink without him.
Yeah.
Or imagine how good he would be. Imagine how good he would be on a really good team.
Put him on the Yankees.
Yeah, sandwich him in between Stanton and Judge.
If you had a trio of Judge, Trout, and Stanton, that right there would probably be the all-time great trio, or at least top 5 right there.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous. Like, the Angels are paying him like $20 million a year, and it's not enough.
No, it's not. It's really not. He's already a 2-time MVP. He's already a 6-time All-Star, a 5-time Silver Slugger. Wilson overall Defensive Player of the Year.
And I know he's not related to Chicago sports at all, but it was such, like, what he's doing is so great. I just felt like it needed to be acknowledged.
Oh, absolutely. It had to be. No, I'm glad you brought it up. One last quick note I have on the Los Angeles Angels all-time player list, because on Baseball Reference, it does all-time top 24 players by B-WAR. You know who number 14 is?
Wait, what's the ranking? Sorry.
All-time top 24 players for the Los Angeles Angels on Baseball Reference based on B-WAR.
Okay. Who's number 14?
Number 14.
John Lackey. John Lackey.
Whoa, girl.
Yeah, and you know what, though? Is John Lackey might come back to the Angels and try to get some more war there.
He should.
Except I'm going to start a war with the umpire.
No, John, we're talking about wins above replacement. We're not talking about...
No, we're talking about war. They want to go to war. John Lackey's got a long memory.
John, we appreciate your concern, but no, that's not what we're doing here.
Me and Buttercup are coming and bringing our talents to Los Angeles, and we're going to clank our spurs on the West Coast.
You named your mop that looks like a horse Buttercup?
Clip clop, clip clop.
Oh, bro.
I got double chawing right now.
That's disgusting.
So do you want to go into hockey or basketball?
We'll do hockey. We'll save kind of the biggest for last, which is probably the Bulls.
All right. So there's a ton going on with the Blackhawks right now. We had the draft. We've got some free agency rumors. We've got a trade. Some Corey Crawford news. Schedule announcement. A Scott Foster signing. All kinds of stuff. Let's just jump in with...
Hear Scott Foster was at the Vegas NHL Awards.
Yeah, well, he's presented the Vizino trophy to Pekka Rinne.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That was so cool that the NHL did that. For those not familiar, Scott Foster was the emergency goalie that came in and played for the Blackhawks. That was an accountant and came in and played emergency goalie. So for them to do something like that and fly him into Vegas for the NHL awards and let him present the award to the best goalie of the year. That's super cool. I can't think of like anything cooler than that. That's like cool for him. It's cool for the league. It's cool for the fans.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. He's got to feel just so good after doing that. That's got to be just such a cool experience for him.
I mean, if nothing else, if there was ever a team that, was having trouble finding emergency goalies to come to the games and sit there, this has just got to be like a recruiting tool.
Yeah, for sure.
But Friday started the NHL amateur draft, and the Blackhawks had the number 8 overall pick in the first round and the number 27 overall pick in the first round, which they got in a trade from the Nashville Predators. And there was a lot of speculation of who the Blackhawks would go with, and there was a lot of concern about this draft because I've heard a lot of people say that it is not a spectacular draft, and it's basically a one-guy draft.
It was Dahlin. It was all about Dahlin. You knew he was going to be the first overall pick.
Yeah, he's a guy that could be right in the NHL next year. But after that, it was kind of a who knows who would be there. But the Blackhawks, if you look at some of the traits of guys that they did draft, you will start to see a pattern. So the first guy they got was Adam Bogqvist, defenseman from Sweden, 5'11", 168, a highly gifted offensive defenseman, tremendous ceiling, but he's several years away from the NHL. He has a lot of work to do on the defensive side. But if you looked at his stats or his rankings, he was ranked as the number 2 skater by NHL Central Scouting, the number 7 overall by Future Considerations, number 8 by ISS Hockey, and number 5 overall by The Athletic. Very similar in style to Rasmus Dahlin, the number 1 overall pick. His offensive ability is off the charts. Smooth skater, great passer. He's likened to Erik Karlsson, the 2-time Norris Trophy winner. And they said he has the offensive tools right now of a top 6 forward. So they say he just needs to get better on defense. They said he's got a good stick, but has to get a little bit better as a defenseman on the defensive side and needs to get stronger because he's 5'11", 168.
I think the ceiling for him is really high, like you said. I think the promise is what I like the most. But the thing that I think is the worst part, or the biggest downside, I should say, he's not going to be in the NHL for a while. So it's not like this draft pick was going to save your butts anytime soon defensively. He's a ways away.
Yeah, but honestly, would you rather have somebody that's a little closer to Major League or NHL ready that has a much lower ceiling, or a guy that's a few years away that has a much higher ceiling?
No, I totally get that. And you're right. I'm just saying that don't expect this to suddenly solve their problems next year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't saying it as a obvious answer. It was, that's a decision that you as an organization need to make.
Right.
And they chose the latter. I mean, it made it easier of a choice because the defenseman from the University of Michigan got chosen before they drafted. Had he been, and that was kind of a no-brainer pick for him, where he went. But if he had been available for the Blackhawks, he's much closer to the NHL.
Well, they would have jumped all over that.
I think they might have, because he has a high ceiling as well. and he's pretty close to being ready to the NHL. Probably might come in next year.
There was a moment where I thought he was going to fall to the Hawks, but then he didn't.
But I'm excited to see what we get with him. He's young, so hopefully we get to learn more about him in the next couple seasons. With their other first round pick, they chose a Canadian defenseman, Nicholas Baudin, 5'11", 172. He's a power play facilitator, fast, smooth skater, great puck mover, really great ice vision. He moves on the ice like a center. He's got similar struggles as Bugfist. They said he's somewhat of a reach at 27, but he has the tools to be a star at the next level.
Yeah, I really like this pick. I really do. I think that the speed is something that they really need. So it gives you that. I know some people were kind of thinking, okay, we could have gotten a center with this other pick. You had 2 first-round picks, but I'm good with getting these 2 defensemen. I think it'll be beneficial to them in the long run.
They didn't have a second rounder. They had talks. Bowman made a comment in the media that he was going to actively try to trade back into the second round, but clearly that didn't happen. They ended up with their third round pick, number 69 overall. They got Jake Wise. They got their center. He's 5'10", 194. He's American from Massachusetts. He's a two-way center. At one point, he was thought to be a potential top 10 pick. He's going to play at Boston University next year. Good skater, fast, hard worker, good speed, good stick movement. He's a guy that has a lot of a high ceiling as well, and you hope that playing at a top program like BU is going to polish him and make him a much better player going forward.
For sure, because center depth is something that they also need a lot of. That's why a lot of people wanted also a center drafted in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people clamoring for a center in the first round, but that's sort of the way it goes. Then they traded up to get another third-round pick in Nicholas Nordgren, right winger from Finland. He's 5'9", 174. He's a sniper. He was absolutely fantastic with the Finnish team in the under-18 in the Worlds. He's under contract with HIFK through 2021 season, so we're not going to see him for a while.
Yeah,
but he's been described as a boomer bust pick, and but he's a sniper, and the Blackhawks saw something in him that they really, really liked, that they had to trade up to get him. And then their fourth rounder, they picked Philippe Kurashev. He's a left winger center from Switzerland, and he's got nice size, 6 foot, 190. His dad was a Soviet era pro player. He's a fast skater, great acceleration. He created a lot of odd man rushes, but he's an inconsistent player. He's another one that they described as a boomer bust pick. The fifth round, they chose Mikael Hakkarainen, a forward from Finland, 6'1", 194. The Hawks traded up to get him. He's going to go. He's going to Providence College next year. And then I don't want to go into the later rounds per se, but if you look at sort of the pattern, is the Blackhawks have gone defensemen in rounds 1 and 2 the past 2 years. They added 2 defensemen in round 1 this year. They added a defenseman in round 1 last year and a defenseman in round 2 last year. So 4 defensemen in top 2 rounds past 2 years. And it goes along with something that Scott Bowman had said is that that getting great defensemen, like top 4 type defensemen, is really hard to do because they don't come onto the free agent market very often, and they're really hard to trade for. You basically got to grow them yourself. So the fact that the Blackhawks spent a lot of high draft picks on these types of guys just screams that that's their goal in the future years is they want to be able to have these homegrown guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at the past few years, you see a number of guys that you recognize that have been drafted. You see Ryan Hartman, you see John Hayden. Some of these guys aren't around anymore, like Teuvu's gone, but Vinny Hinostroza, remember, he was drafted in the 6th round along with Teuvo Teravainen in 2012. So you're seeing some success in varying levels of the draft, but obviously there are a lot of guys here that haven't made the NHL yet. I mean, the 24 draft, the one guy to really make it to the NHL, make a big impact, has been Nick Schmaltz. Other than that, Dylan Sakura has played 5 games and then nothing. So, you can't look at every one of these picks and say, oh, they're going to turn out, they're going to be obviously a great asset. No, a lot of these guys may never make it, but you certainly hope that the top guys that you drafted do, and then somebody else, because they've addressed a lot of needs. They need some defense depth. They need some center depth. They even drafted a goaltender. They didn't draft a goaltender at all last year. That was drafted in the 6th round this year, Alexis Gravel. So you kind of hope that you can...
Who's got an awesome name.
Gravel. Saved by Gravel.
Yeah, it's that they've decided that they feel like they've got enough talent as forwards, and I think they feel like they can go out and find enough foreign players like Artemi Panarin that they were able to bring in, outside of the draft, that they can, they can do with drafting later as far as forwards and centers. But defensemen, they geared really heavily early on because they're having a difficult time bringing in top defensemen, and that was, Corey Crawford would have masked the goalie depth issue if he was healthy, but the lack of top end defensemen was just quite evident with what we saw last year.
Yeah, for sure.
What else with the Blackhawks? Oh, you also saw in the draft, they really focused on skill and speed over size. The biggest guy that they drafted was 6'1", 194, but they drafted several guys who are under 6 foot and under 175 pounds. So they're really, really gearing towards speed, skill, stick handling over size. And I think that as an organization is their philosophy going forward.
Well, it kind of has to be with the way hockey is changing. It's kind of where we're heading to. So that's good. I think that's really good.
What else with the Blackhawks? Bowman had an update on Corey Crawford. He said,
if you want to call it that.
Well, it was an update without being any sort of update. But they said they expect him to be ready for training camp. But do we ever know? Did we ever find out what was wrong with him?
No, it's never said. I mean, he kind of just came up and said, "Yeah, we're expecting him to be ready. We're not really sure exactly what's going on." To me, that tells me there's something they don't want to tell us. I think
absolutely. They're playing so coy, and it's that's scary as a fan because without Corey Crawford, this is not a good team.
Well, they absolutely need him for sure. I mean, he was their MVP last year before going down. I don't know if there's concussion or mental issues we don't know about. We've heard other rumors about some personal issues, but we don't know if that's true or not. But regardless, this is telling me that there is something up. When they made the big announcement that Corey Crawford is going to be at the Blackhawks convention, you're not normally, seeing big updates that an essential player is going to be at the convention because you kind of already assume they're going to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that shouldn't. That should
the
be
fact
a
that they had to
given.
announce
Yeah, that should be a given, not an announcement.
Right. So there's something going on here. And like you said, as a fan, it's a little scary. You need him. He's important.
Yeah, you definitely need him because you did really have nothing behind him.
Yeah.
What else? The schedule was announced. Clearly not going to read the schedule, but the important dates are first regular season game of the year will be October 4th at Ottawa, and the first home game will be a couple of days later, October 7th, original six matchup with Toronto, which is fun because Toronto doesn't come to town very often.
No, it's only one time a year. You got to like those openings against original six teams. Kind of sucks, so they have to turn right around from being in St. Louis and coming home, but at least they're coming from St. Louis and not really far away.
Yeah. What else? The salary cap is estimated to be going up to $80 million. Gives the Blackhawks a little bit of breathing room, more than they had. And that's good because Jonathan Tavares is meeting with 5 teams to potentially sign with as a free agent. And Scotty Bowman will not confirm nor deny that they are one of the teams.
Yeah, the Islanders, a lot of weird things going there. The whole Barry Trotz thing and now John Tavares. Weird stuff going there. But yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if the Hawks really are going after him or not.
I mean,
obviously they'd want more firepower, so that would give you some more firepower.
I mean, he's fantastically talented, and they made a trade where they traded they traded Tanner Caro for a restricted free agent journeyman that they're probably not going to sign, and they're basically cleared Tanner Caro's salary off the books.
How much was he making? I can't even remember. It couldn't have been that much.
No, I think it was like $650.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But chipping away a little bit here, a little bit there, and if you can get rid of that Marian Hossa salary, that suddenly creates a big amount of cap room.
Yeah, I mean it's good to have as much cap room as you can get, even though this upcoming free agent market isn't great. You're going to need to fill some holes, and that just kind of includes backup goaltending. So you want to have the money there.
But not in a free agent per se, but a guy I referenced a few minutes ago, Erik Karlsson, it's been made clear that he doesn't want to re-sign. They're probably going to move him as a trade piece out of Ottawa, 2-time Norris Trophy winner. Now, there's the interesting one because I think he's only like 27.
He's only 27.
And so getting one of the best.
Seems like he's older, but wow.
He might be. Maybe I'm mistaken. Let's see. Erik Karlsson. Oh, he's 28.
So,
sorry,
I thought he was almost 30.
but he just turned 28. But he's one of the best defensemen in the league. What kind of package do you have to put together? Do the Blackhawks have enough to put together to bring him over?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have some young, talented players. like Nick Schmaltz and Alex DeBrincat, but you're going to want to keep those guys.
Yeah.
They're kind of important.
You don't want to get rid of those guys because there's been rumors about bringing back Artemi Panarin, and what kind of trade package would you have to put together for him? Because if it involves either DeBrincat or Schmaltz, you probably have to say no, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially DeBrincat, I feel like he's an essential young piece of the core. Essential.
And
now,
the thing is about the Artemi Panarin is, I would love to see him back because you'd see just fantastic numbers with the Kane line. But you know what? Does he play defense? Is he a top 4 defenseman? Does it fix that?
That's the thing. A lot of people point to the Saad Panarin trade last year, but that really wasn't the biggest part of the problem. Because the defense was awful and the goaltending was awful. Yeah, the scoring wasn't great like it has been, but you were giving up 5+ goals a night. You can't blame Brandon Saad for that. Putting Artemi Panarin instead of Brandon Saad wouldn't really help that. Plus, Saad is a better two-way player in terms of playing defense than Panarin, so in the end, it really didn't help.
Yeah, so it's, as much as it would be cool to have him back and have Saad as well, and you hope that next year that Saad Taves would be a much better line, and then Panarin Kane would be a better line.
That'd be a dream.
But that doesn't seem realistic, and it doesn't address the biggest needs that you have on this team, which is backup goaltender and top 4 defenseman.
Right, and I'm looking at the Blackhawks' salaries now, their cap hits now. If you're thinking about what Artemi Panarin is worth and what they would have to trade to get him, I feel like it would involve one of their young guys, whether it's DeBrincat or Schmaltz, or maybe a core piece that has controllable salary. Because one of the main reason these rumors are coming up with Panarin is because there's no talks of extension yet. Panarin doesn't seem to be interested in extending with the Blue Jackets, and the Blue Jackets would want to extend him. If not, they want to get something before he potentially walks. Because what it seems like to me is that Panarin, while he's entering his prime, putting up these numbers, is that he's going to want to test the market when he's a free agent, and this is his last year.
Yeah.
So this is why we're hearing these rumors.
Yep. It's going to be interesting because clearly the Blackhawks have something that they're trying to do, and you expect it to be something fairly big, because Bowman is sort of on thin ice, isn't he? You have to consider that.
Yeah, I think if they don't make the playoffs again this year, I think there's going to be some major shakeups.
You would expect.
You would expect.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Is the free agency market for defensemen, good defensemen, pretty bare bones. John Carlson's available, but he's gonna cost some big money. Who else is even available as a defenseman?
There really isn't anything to sign that reasonable that will suddenly make things all better again.
Yeah, there's really not. I'm going through the top ranked free agents. Mike Green, but he's already 32.
Nah, they're not going to sign Mike Green.
Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense.
The guy's way past his prime.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of top defensemen that are guys that are good usually get extended. The top guys don't really hit the market that often, so it makes sense why the Blackhawks are drafting defensemen with their top picks.
Boy, oh boy. Looking at capfriendly.com Blackhawks, we have Brett Seabrook until 2023-2024. And he's making nearly
We got a
$7 million
lot.
each year.
Yeah, where's Dale Talon? We can trade him to.
And I don't want to knock Brent Seabrook. He's been so essential to this team during the glory days, but I don't see him suddenly bouncing back and being elite again. It's just so much ice time, so much wear and tear. It's really hard to come back from that. Father Time always wins.
It's like Janet Jackson said, "What have you done for me lately?" Boop, 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 boop. So
33 years
he's old.
Yeah. It's just too bad. I hate seeing Brent Seabrook struggle because of how good he's been, but you consider what's been going on and how many more years he's going to be on that payroll. Him and Duncan Keith. And I'm a huge Duncan Keith fan, but man, they're going to be around for a while, and they're both 33 and 34.
Yup.
I mean, if there was a way we could make some trades, even just to eat some of that salary, just some of it, I feel like that would be a big win. Unless this coming year they just return to form. I mean, maybe it could happen. I'm not counting on it. With the physical toll that they've taken over the years, I'm not counting on it, but stranger things have happened. But if they continue to struggle, then I think it's pretty clear that they're not going to be returning to form.
Yeah,
It sucks to say.
Yeah, you don't-
I love both of them, but damn.
it's speed. When it goes, it goes. I mean, if this was the '80s, those guys would still be good because speed wasn't the name of the game per se. But
No, it's physicality.
it is, 2018. Lose the wheels, you lose your talent.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because Cap Friendly. I mean, it's a great. They lay this out so great because it's all horizontal. They lay out everything horizontal, so you can easily compare who is going to be a cap hit in the upcoming years, and then they say which year they become a UFA or an RFA. That's unrestricted free agent or restricted free agent. Thomas Yurko, he's listed as a restricted free agent, but I believe they re-signed him, didn't they?
I thought they did, but to be fair, I've not been paying attention. I've been focused on the draft stuff.
Right, I'll look it up really quick because I thought I heard they extended that. Thomas Yurko. Huh. I thought I heard they did, but Vinny Hinestroza agrees to contract extension. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on Thomas Yurko here, so maybe not. Yeah, because he's still listed as an RFA on capfriendly.com.
If they want to bring him back, he's not going to cost a lot of money.
Oh God, no. I mean, not even $1 million.
Yeah.
But
anything else?
looking at this chart, I'm just going to say this really quick. Looking at this chart, there are some guys you're going to want to kind of extend here. 2 guys. You could probably guess who they are.
I don't even know who's.
I'll say one of them, Nick Schmaltz.
Nick Schmaltz.
Because this is the last year of his contract.
Dylan.
You're going to need to extend.
Dylan Sakura. I think this is the last year of his contract.
DeBrinket's under contract this year and next year.
Yeah. So got Kane on contract for another bajillion years. Hots on contract for another bajillion years.
Unless they trade his rights.
Maybe you can move.
Kane and Taze are both through 2022, 2023.
Yeah, is that the same year that Seabrook's under contract till?
Nope. Seabrook's under contract the longest. He's under contract 1 more year. So after 2021, 2022, there's 4 guys that'll still be under contract. Kane, Tays, Seabrook, Keefe. All of them are ending in the same year except Brent Seabrook, who is 1 year longer. So there you go.
Oh man, we have $12 million a year tied up in Seabrook and Keefe.
Yeah. I mean, at the end, their goods will outweigh their bads, what they've done in their careers for this franchise, by far. But, yeesh.
All right, let's move on to basketball. Wrap this up. First, I want to talk about, did you see the most recent pictures of Larry Markkinen?
Oh, doesn't he have like a shaved head
He
now?
looks like Ivan Drago. He's like ripped. He must have put on like 20 pounds of muscle. Yeah, that's
Good for
great
him.
for the Bulls.
Oh, wow, I just saw a picture. Yeah, you're
I will
right.
break you.
Yeah, that's
I wish
my
you would
man.
have
That's
posted a
Lauri
picture of
Markkinen.
him up online beating up on Apollo Creed. So that, I mean, whatever he's eating over in Finland, I want some of that. But other than that, is we had the NBA draft, and I'm normally not a huge NBA draft like guy. I'm the NFL draft is my thing, but the two of us got invited to a draft party. You weren't able to make it. I went, and I wish you could have made it. It was a blast. It ended up being sponsored by the Bulls. They sent a big giant box of swag for the party.
Damn, I wish.
Yeah, I got to hang out with the guys from Bow, and got to hang out with C. Red Fred, who is hilarious. But the party, I think vast majority of people were very down on the possibility of the Bulls drafting Mo Bamba. This party was pretty down on Mo Bamba. So when he went number 6 to Orlando and was off the board for the Bulls, the place erupted.
Yeah, I was sad. I hit my head on the table. I was sad.
But Mo Bamba went to the same high school, this tiny little high school that my wife went to outside of Philadelphia, the Westtown School, which is a small Quaker boarding school. That's weird. But the Bulls ended up drafting Wendell Carter Jr. From Duke, and it's funny because what does everyone say about Mo Bamba? Yeah, I mean, what does everyone the upside of him is he's young and he has a lot of high a high ceiling, but he's really young. If you look, Wendell Carter Jr. is almost an entire year younger than Mo Bamba.
That I did not realize.
Wendell Carter Jr. just turned 19 in April. Mo Bamba just turned 20 in May. So they are 11. He's 11 months younger.
Yeah, you're right.
And Mo Bamba, when you saw him in the draft, I was laughing about his pants because it looked like somebody did a bad Photoshop on him because it looks like a size like 28 waist and a 75 inseam. They're so tiny and thin but long. And when you looked at Wendell Carter, he looks like a man. Like he's got a body of a man. He's 250 some pounds. Like he's got a man body. So
he's a big dude.
He's got a high ceiling as well. He's got a lot of room to grow. And the thing was, he was supposed to be the number 1 guy for Duke last year, but when oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Marvin Bagley Jr. got reclassified and was able to enroll at Duke. He became the number one guy. And Wendell Carter Jr. was
Right.
able to step aside, let him take the lead as the alpha dog, but he filled in and did everything that he was needed to make that team a good team, which I like because that bodes well for a team that already has, I wouldn't say trouble brewing, but it's got, we've talked about it before, between Dunn, Levine, and Markkanen, there's no established like pecking order. There is
Right.
no established alpha male, alpha player.
And you don't know how much longer Levine is going to be a part of this. You know, there's a lot of debate about that.
There is, and we'll get into that. But is Wendell Carter Jr. is showing that he can step in and fit in wherever they need him. And I think he's just going to be a really great tool for the Bulls. At Duke, he averaged 13.5 points a game, 9.1 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks. And to be a center, he's short for a center. He's 6'9", but when you figure that he's got a 7'5" wingspan and his standing reach is 9'1", that's really comparable to most centers in the league.
I think that this kid has a good ceiling, and I'm confident that he's going to be a very good player. I don't see a superstar. I see a good player. So I don't hate the pick. I'm not overly jumping up and down for the pick, but I'm going to say, okay, I think that if he turns out to be like the player he was in college, then we have a good player on our hands. I won't deny that. But I still, to me, the biggest thing about the Bulls is they still don't have a superstar. And that worries me. Now, a lot of people have been upset with the Bulls about how they handled the draft. The opinion was they should have tried to trade up. Well, in their defense, I don't know how hard they tried. I mean, it takes two to tango to get a trade done. So they could have made offers to other teams ahead of them, but they're saying, no, we want this high pick because we like this guy and this guy. To me, it seemed like the Bulls didn't have a guy. If they had a guy, they probably would have really tried hard to make a trade. We saw the rumors of them interested in a trade, but if they had a particular guy, they would have gone really hard at it. So maybe they tried, it didn't work, so they took what they thought was best available at the spot they were picking.
I think it's
unfortunate that they didn't have a higher pick, but that's what it was.
I really want everybody that's upset that the Bulls didn't trade up to write down the screen capture the expert analysis on all the top 10 players that were drafted and save that for a couple of years, because there is no one player that is flawless. There was no LeBron James in this draft. Is even if you traded up to number one, which I think the Suns they had their guy DeAndre Ayton, but so let's say you even traded up to traded up to 2. Who in this draft is just such a standout star that you had to have? Is all these? That's the thing. Is this league is changing. You're drafting guys that they're 1 year removed from high school. They're like 19 years old. They're not 21, 22 years old anymore. They're coming out at 19. One of the guys that drafted is 7 foot tall and weighs like 215 pounds. Like that's not a man. That's not a man body. I mean, it's tall, but that's not a grown. Like, he's got a lot of work to do to get his body ready to play against grown men. They're projects. There's a lot of guessing involved, and so there's no lock. So if you mortgage your future on a guy that has question marks, people are like, oh well, Trae Young. Well, he's on a stretch, he's 6 feet tall. And what if he could be a huge bust? Like there's a lot of guys. There's no locks. So I feel like Wendell Carter was a guy with really good upside, and I think a pretty high floor. I think he's a safe pick because if he doesn't pan out like you thought he would, I think he's still a solid starting basketball player in the NBA. And if he reaches his potential, he could be a better version of Al Horford.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that he is going to be a very good player. And I'm not necessarily blaming the Bulls this time for the lack of a superstar. It just, like you said, there was no LeBron James or Steph Curry really in this draft. It was just kind of it's just kind of unfortunate that that's how it worked out. There's a lot of things you could be mad at the Bulls for, management-wise. A lot of things, justifiably so. But in this draft, I can't be overly mad at them. And like I said in other shows, they tried to tank. There were teams that were worse. So I can't be too mad at them at that. What's scary is that I don't want them to be stuck in basketball hell and have good players but not a superstar. But you're going to have to find ways to get one in the future.
Absolutely, you got to find one, but they've got the money to do it if somebody becomes available. But the thing is the one guy who looks like he could be a superstar talent wise was Porter, and there's rumors that he might not play next year.
Well, you saw how far he fell.
Yeah, and
I mean, if he didn't have injury problems, he would have been taken before the Bulls even got a chance to pick.
Yeah, absolutely. He probably would have been the number one overall pick. And it would have been, teams just like doing backflips that they got the number one overall pick. This year, the Suns are probably happy because they got to choose the guy they want, but I don't think there was anybody that just like, oh my God, this is the guy. He's going to change our franchise. But Porter is a really good basketball player. But I mean, even watching him walk during the draft, he looked like a guy that had a bad back. And the thing is, when you're that tall, is once you get a back injury, that's scary. The back injuries just linger. Knees they fix, they're back to normal. Broken bones, they're fixed, they healed. Backs linger.
It's kind of a scary thought. Let's say the Bulls did take him, and you had 3 of your 4 core guys with big injury question marks, because it's a problem with Dunn, it's a problem with Levine, and it'd be a problem with him. Heck, even Lauri Markkanen's had some back problems. The ceiling for him is high, talent-wise. High. But it goes to show, this draft shows that injury problems can be very concerning. So, again, it was another just kind of unfortunate break for him and other teams.
Yeah, so it's there was no just lock guy that was great. And I mean, if you think about it, you look at Steph Curry. Steph Curry was drafted 7th overall. Jimmy Butler was 27th.
Yep.
There's guys that were not like top 5 draft picks. I mean, if you look, Kevin Durant wasn't the number 1 overall pick. The guy they picked ahead of him was Greg Oden.
That's
I don't
right.
even. He was a bust. Injury history. Bust. And so Kevin Durant was not he was number 2 pick. There's guys that in this. I mean, you get a lot fewer superstars that fall into the second round, but you see superstars that were drafted all over the first round, and the Bulls got 2 bites at that apple.
Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is very unpredictable. I mean, sports is very unpredictable. So, yeah, I mean,
Uh,
all good points.
and with the second number one pick, the one that they got for Nico Mirotic, they ended up drafting Chandler Hutchinson, a wing player from Boise State.
No surprise. A lot of people pretty much had him going to the Bulls, and it sounded like the Bulls were pretty much committed to drafting him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rumor was that the Bulls told him that if he was available, they were going to draft him. So when he came on the board, he was gone. And he's 6'7", but he's got a 7'1" wingspan. So he's a long player. He's a good playmaker, strong off the ball, versatile defender. The Bulls' biggest need last year was help on the wing, and he'll bring that. He's a good rebounder. He needs to work on his shooting, but the biggest knock on him is he's 22. And in today's basketball world, that's old to be drafting a guy 22.
It is, but you know what? I think that's a good late first round pick for the Bulls. I really do think that was a very solid pick. Even with
It's
the
weird
age.
because after like the first 15 players, maybe 18 players, that from that point to the end of the first round, there was a bunch of guys that probably ranked out around the same grade. It was like a fit issue, who you liked better, who was a better fit for your team. It's kind of a cool thing because you could, there was no predictability to who was going other than this pick. But it was, on paper, it was not added to be a superstar. It was added to complement what they already have on this team. He was filling a hole that they had. They liked him, and they feel like what he's really missing is just consistency in his shot. And they feel that's something that you can just work on, because it wasn't the confidence, because they saw him take big shots at the end of the games and hit them. It's more of he's streaky.
Right.
But they didn't have a second round pick, but they did bring in Dante Ingram from Loyola and signed him to the summer league. So that'll be cool to see. Hopefully he's he's a good story with Loyola. Hopefully he can latch on with this team.
There, yeah.
It's nice to see. And Lonzo Ball's brother didn't get drafted and didn't get signed as a summer league player either.
And the Bulls did not get Grayson Allen. Thank God.
Yeah, it was funny. The party was everyone going, please, 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 please let Mo Bamba be off the board when the Bulls draft, and please, please, please let Grayson Allen be off the board when the Bulls draft. And it was funny because Adrian Wojnarowski was breaking the news beforehand. So I was on Twitter.
Oh, and that was pissing a lot of people off too.
And I was just like, and everyone's sitting there on the edge of their seats when the pick before the Bulls. See, Grayson Allen, I think, went the pick before the Bulls too. And I was like, Grayson Allen off the board. And everyone's like, what? According to who? According to who? And I'm like, Woj. And they're like, yeah! And the whole party erupted. And the guy who hosted the party, his brother lives outside of Philadelphia, and he came in for it. And when the Sixers traded Bridges, he was like, what? And I was like, Woj is reporting it. And I handed him my phone, and he looked at it, and he just goes, I hate your phone. I hate your stupid phone. Your phone is dumb. I don't like it. Because that was like, that sucked. Because Bridges from Philadelphia played at Villanova. His mom was a VP of HR for the Sixers. Gets drafted by the Sixers. They're crying and hugging. And then 10 minutes later, they trade him to the Suns.
That is so funny.
But the last thing I had to talk about was something that you alluded to a little bit earlier, and it's, what do you do with Zach LaVine?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about him.
And
because
I talked to a few people at the party about the situation, and I think the kind of knee-jerk story that you're getting from national media is well, you're going to have to pay him the max. You're going to have to pay him $20 million to get him. But talking to a few other people, what's the interest from other teams in Zach LaVine? Are you going to have to pay him $20 million? And I started looking at who's got salary cap to pay him $20 million. And there's not very many teams that have the money to bring him in. There's always ways you can do it, like Kevin Durant being re-signed by Golden State, even though they're way into the luxury tax, et cetera. But are they going to do that for Zach LaVine? They're not going to mortgage the future to sign Zach LaVine. So there's only a handful of teams that have enough money outright to sign him, and several of them it just doesn't make any sense to bring him. I think the Bulls could end up signing him in the $14 to $15 million a year range.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of other teams are also concerned with the injury history too. I mean, wouldn't you be?
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, that right there can be an indicator. That's why it's one of these things where I don't really have a definitive idea of what he's going to do. So I'm just going to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, he's a restricted free agent. So it's not like he can just walk. You can match a contract. So if somebody does offer him something ridiculous, then you have a decision to make. But if he doesn't get the contract offer that he's expecting, then what makes you think that you have to sign him to a boatload of money?
Right. I mean, it's going to depend on the value that's there. We know how talented he is, that the raw talent is there, but with the injury issues, and they're not injury issues to take lightly, that really affects the value. I mean, heck, we saw it in the draft when the guy with arguably the most talent drops that far because of injury issues. That says a lot. That says a lot of what that can do to your value.
Here are the teams that right now have the salary cap to pay a guy more than $14 million a year. The Houston Rockets. And they're going to go after somebody big.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go after Zach LaVine.
Dallas Mavericks. That's a bad team. I don't see them doing that. Sacramento Kings. They have a hard time attracting players. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Hawks do. The 76ers do. The Bulls do. And the Lakers do.
That's not a lot. And I don't think the Lakers would go after a guy like Zach LaVine. I think they're going to go big.
They got to go big or go home.
Philadelphia, Atlanta, I could potentially see, but at the end of the day, I don't see more than a few teams. So it's not like they're lining up outside where there's a huge sweepstake to try to sign him.
Yeah, I guess it only takes one team to offer him a contract, but when there's a lot less teams that have room, then that creates a situation where the less teams that are bidding on him, these other teams know that, and they're going to make their contract offer accordingly.
Exactly.
And only one team has more salary cap room than the Bulls, so the Bulls have the room to do it. It's the Lakers. Lakers are the only other team.
Yeah, and again, I don't think he's going to draw a lot of interest from them right now. I don't.
So I think he comes back to the Bulls, and I think it's a contract that is manageable. You have $40 million in cap space right now. If you sign him for 15, that leaves you $25 million in flexibility.
Yeah, I'd say the chances are higher and better than not. But like I said, I don't know for sure. It's going to be a wait and see what happens. I can't put any certainty on anything, but to your point, it seems like it would be in favor of him coming back to the Bulls, even though we don't know for sure. If you had to go off chances.
Yeah, and think about it is, if they sign him to around $14, $15 million, when they move Robin Lopez, even if they don't move him at the end of the year, he's a free agent. Is that pretty much offsets his contract right there?
Right.
Campaign is another couple $1 million that could be off your books. Justin Holiday.
Oh, but Campaign is the greatest bull ever. Come on.
Justin Holiday, $4.5 million could be off your books.
Justin Holiday. I sometimes have to remind myself that he's still a thing on the team.
Oh, I know. I remind myself all the time. You can still part ways with Omer Sheik and get rid of that $12 million. You have a lot of places you can move money around and get a free agent and still get Zach LaVine.
Yeah, no, you could.
I'm just pulling up the list of NBA free agents this year, and somebody at the party was like, "There's not a single good free agent this year," and it was hilarious because C-Red Fred and I both blurted out LeBron James, and he's like, "Well, besides him," then we both go Kevin Durant. And then like, well, besides him, and then he's C-Red Fred said Paul George, and I said Chris Paul. I was like, there's some really big names.
Yeah, there are, and they're not coming to Chicago. That's the saddest part.
And I mean, honestly, though, is if you added LeBron James to this Bulls team, they're a good team.
Oh, of course. I mean, you can add him to like a team of just wooden sticks, and he would get that team of wooden sticks to the finals. Let's face it.
Yeah, but I mean, so like would you do that to bring in LeBron James? Probably not, but I'm just saying is that this Bulls team is not that far away, and they've got some good parts in there, especially they signed LaVine, done. They got Markkanen, now Wendell Carter, and you bring in the best basketball player in the planet, and that, I mean, you have to consider that they'd be one of the top two favorites in the East to go to the finals.
Of course. You have to be. And the East is so bad. It's almost automatic when LeBron is in the East that he's going to the finals. Pretty much is automatic.
I'm just curious where LeBron goes.
Me too. I mean, everyone is. I think a lot is going to happen after people know where he goes.
Does it happen after he makes his decision? Is he the one that leads the charge, or does all the people start making moves in order to try to get him?
Well, I think a few teams will, but that's just going to be a few set of teams. A lot of other teams that realize they don't have a chance to get him are going to make moves according to where he goes. But I think the Lakers are going to go hard after him. The 76ers are going to go hard after him. I mean, those are the two that I think are really going to go hard after him. I think he's as good as gone from Cleveland. I'm probably missing a few teams that he'd probably potentially go to. I don't know if you could think of any, but right now the Lakers and the 76ers to me seem like the big ones that would go after him. Like that had a chance.
76ers, chance, big chance.
Heck, I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a part of me that thinks, what if he goes back to South Beach? I don't think it's going to happen, but
I don't think so either. What if he goes to Milwaukee?
I thought about Milwaukee too. I don't really know what their cap situation is like, but think about it. If you had the Greek Freak alongside LeBron James, think about that.
The Greek Freak's brother was the last player drafted in the draft.
Yeah, that's something.
I'm sure the Knicks will somehow try to get him.
Yeah, good luck with that.
The Rockets will try to get him.
But can they? Do they have the space to do that?
They've got like I think they have $20-some million in space, but they can make room. Yes. They have Houston Rockets have $22 million in cap space.
Huh, I didn't know they had that much.
So, yeah, Lakers are probably going to try. Sixers.
What about San Antonio? What's their situation like? Even though they're they're a little bit in a jumble right now, so I don't think he would want to go there for the time being.
You know what? Is Pop with LeBron and Kawhi is good enough to go to the Western Conference Final to play Golden State.
Well, doesn't Kawhi want out?
He does, but who's to say that if you bring in LeBron James, it suddenly doesn't change his mind?
Well, that's true, but yeah.
The Bucks are over the cap. So, yeah, I guess they're out.
Right.
Unless they want to go into the luxury cap, which I don't think they do playing in Milwaukee.
Like I said before, it would say a lot about LeBron James if he went to like a non-rebuilding team. Or a rebuilding team.
How awesome would it be as far as a rivalry if he went to Oklahoma City and then it was Russ and LeBron versus Durant and Curry?
Well, that would be quite a battle. Let's just say that.
It will get heated. Woo!
What about OKC? I don't know what their situation is like. I don't follow NBA cap enough to know.
They're $36 million over the cap in practical cap space.
Okay, so that's out.
But that would be a cool situation.
Yeah, for sure.
But
him and Westbrook.
The NBA, you can do so many things to create cap space for your guy. Everybody's going to go for LeBron. They'll find a way. But
it's just a matter of who realistically has a chance.
The question is going to be that when LeBron leaves Cleveland, does he opt out or does he force a trade? So the Cavaliers get some pieces back. That's the question.
He's able to opt out, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, wouldn't you think that he would want to opt out so he could get a brand new contract and a lot more money?
You can do a sign and trade, or you can do a, play out that year and then have, get your full contract, or you can get an extension from your new team. There's things you can do.
I just feel like he would want to test the market. You know what I mean?
Probably will. I would be shocked if he didn't, but Durant's going to opt out of his contract and re-sign with Golden State for some ridiculous sum of money.
Yep.
Where's Golden State on this list? Golden State.
If LeBron somehow ended up there, then you'd just cancel the NBA season.
Yeah,
There'd be no point.
Even if one of those players went out with a season-ending injury, they're still the favorite to win it all.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course.
Can you imagine if they signed LeBron James and then LeBron James went out for the year in preseason, was out for the year with a torn ACL or something, and you would just look and be like, well, they're even a bigger favorite to win than they were the previous year because now they have nobody to play in the finals. There's no LeBron to play in the finals.
Exactly.
But it's gonna be fun year this year. I really like the draft of Wendell Carter. I think he's going to mesh really well with the core that the Bulls have, and I think you're gonna see he's not gonna start right away. He's young, but you're going to see him earn more and more and more minutes as the season goes on. By the end of the year, I think most fans are going to be all aboard the Wendell Carter train.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he really does well.